I was pressured into spending $100,000 on a ridiculous princess wedding just to satisfy the groom's parents. I don't think it's fair at all. Hey Reddit, when my fiancé and I got engaged, I imagined we'd plan something simple yet beautiful, something that actually reflected who we are as a couple. Instead, this has turned into a massive fight with his parents, who are treating our wedding like it's some royal ceremony thrown in their honor. The worst part? They want me to pay for the entire thing, and they refuse to hear the word no. From the moment we announced the engagement, his mother, Carol, behaved as though she was the official coordinator. She immediately started tossing out ideas about a huge ballroom, a custom designer gown, a 10-layer cake, and a guest list with basically everyone they ever spoke to. At first, I thought maybe she was just overly excited. I smiled, nodded, and assumed later we'd sit down and talk like normal adults about a sensible plan. But the more I tried to suggest something realistic, the more obvious it became that compromise was not part of their plan. The first major fight started when we began looking at venues. My fiancé and I already had a budget in mind, around $30,000 max, which I honestly thought was already a lot. But Carol looked down on every place we suggested. She insisted we needed the most elite venue in the entire city, and just renting that space alone would cost nearly $50,000. When I reminded her that this was way beyond what we could afford, she just waved it off and said, "Oh, don't stress about it. You'll figure it out. You only get married once." That was the first real warning sign. Things just escalated after that. She and my future father-in-law started meeting with luxury wedding planners behind our backs. They came home with proposals so over the top that I literally laughed because I thought it was satire. A $20,000 flower arrangement budget, a custom-made gown costing more than $15,000, fireworks at the reception, and even doves to release during the ceremony. Whenever I suggested something simpler, Carol brushed it off with, "This is what a respectable wedding looks like. Don't you want something memorable? Or do you want everyone to think it's cheap and dull?" That's when I started wondering if my fiancé even supported me. He said he understood my point, but he also didn't want to let his parents down. He said maybe we could compromise somewhere in the middle. But how do you meet in the middle when their idea of a wedding sits at $100,000? He even threw out the idea of taking a loan to pay for part of it. A loan, for one day. I couldn't believe it. I finally sat down with Carol and my future father-in-law and, as politely as I could, told them I didn't feel comfortable wasting that much money and that a wedding should be about the couple, not a performance for everyone else. Carol actually rolled her eyes at me and said, "Sweetheart, this isn't just about you. This is about our family's reputation. People will talk if we don't do this properly." I was speechless. Things got even worse when they started making decisions and payments without even asking us. One afternoon I got an overly cheerful call from Carol saying they had already put down a deposit on the venue. Yes, the same $50,000 venue I had very clearly said was not within our price range. And when I reminded her we couldn't afford that, she just waved it off and said we'd have time to work it out. The entitlement was unreal. They weren't offering a single cent. They simply assumed I would magically find a way to cover everything, as if I had piles of money stashed somewhere. The breaking point was when they handed me a spreadsheet filled with all their necessary wedding expenses, none of which I had approved, and the total was more than $100,000. When I asked, "And who exactly is supposed to pay for this?" they just stared at me like I was being unreasonable. I walked out of that discussion completely exhausted and frustrated. My fiancé tried to comfort me, but I could see he was terrified to actually challenge them. That's when it finally hit me, this wasn't just about the wedding. This was a glimpse into my whole future if I married him. His parents calling every shot, expecting me to obey, and him standing silently in the background, too scared to disappoint them. That same night, I told him we needed to establish firm boundaries or there simply wouldn't be a wedding at all. I was not going to throw away all my savings just to satisfy his parents' dream party. He looked torn, like he was being pulled between me and them, and honestly, that hurt more than anything else. Shouldn't my opinion matter more? Shouldn't we be making decisions together as a couple? I finally gave him an ultimatum. Either he supports me and we set a clear, reasonable budget together, or I was done. I genuinely thought he would immediately say, "Of course, I'm with you." He was never going to stand up for me. No matter how outrageous his parents' expectations were, no matter how unfairly they treated me, he always had a reason to defend them. I finally had to accept the truth. This wasn't just a wedding problem. It was a marriage problem. If I married him, I wouldn't just be marrying him alone. I'd be marrying his entire family and all their controlling, entitled behavior. And the worst thing? He wasn't just allowing it, he was supporting it. So I made the most painful decision of my life. I sat him down and told him I couldn't go through with it anymore. If he couldn't put me first before the wedding, how could I ever expect him to do it once we were married? He freaked out and begged me to rethink my choice. He even said maybe we could delay the wedding and try to sort things out. But I knew better. This wasn't something that time would magically fix. He'd already shown me exactly where I stood in his list of priorities, and I wasn't going to spend my life coming second to his parents. When I told his family, Carol had the nerve to act surprised, as if she had no idea why I would leave. She even tried to paint me as overly sensitive and accused me of not respecting family values. But I understood it perfectly. I understood that to them, I would never be important enough. So I chose to walk away. No wedding. No $100,000 circus. No future with a man who wouldn't defend me. And the most unbelievable part? The moment I made that choice, I felt completely at ease. Because for the first time throughout this entire ordeal, the decision was entirely mine. And that was worth more than any ceremony could ever be.